championship with him in Cleveland, knows Joe Harris from their days in Cleveland. So I think that would be a tough cut. Who goes? Is it David Nwaba, who's kind of forcing the Nets front office to take another look about cutting him because he's been a decent two-way player in his limited opportunities? Is it going to be Rodion Kurucs, who's in some legal trouble and has been with the G League affiliated Long Island Nets for the better part of the year and hasn't looked as good as he did during his rookie season? I mean, do they cut Wilson Chandler? I don't think so. He's a stretch forward that the Nets desperately need right now, and he's a veteran as the Nets are trying to win now. Is it Theo Pinson? Don't think you can cut him because the Nets have historically always carried 3-point guards. And with Kyrie hurt, I mean, they need another guy who can handle the ball. So it's going to be a very, very tough decision that Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson have to make within the next couple of weeks. And if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say it's Nwaba, unless they can find a way to trade Kurucs. But it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, looking at their roster, I'm not sure. I think it's tough. I I don't know what their options are here. So I'm not going to weigh in too much. I think that it would be good for them to keep a guy like Shumpert. I think he's a good leader for them. I think he's a good veteran presence, and I think this team kind of needs it. But yeah, it's a tough decision. They may need to make a trade. Maybe a guy like Theo Pinson has some value in a trade. Um, I think a lot of people have kind of liked what he's done, but I don't know. It's a great question, and it's we'll have to see come our next show, I guess.
My bold prediction is Nwaba, but he's been making it real tough.
Oh,
So we'll see what happens next time we are back on the air and a decision will have been made. But it's a good problem to have if you're the Nets, but somebody's got to go. So now I will serve you up your T-ball. And listen, we're not going to drag this out. This is Ben's Bulls Blues. It hasn't been blissful in a while. And Ben's going to cry now, so I'll give you the floor.
I mean, there's just not much to say. We're at the point in the season where anyone with eyes can see that what the Bulls are doing is not working. I mean, Jim Boylan has been tinkering with the lineups left and right. He hasn't been able to figure out what lineup works, which one doesn't. It's been back and forth. I mean, I can't even tell you how many different starters have come on, and it hasn't been due to injury. These guys have just been in and out of his doghouse. Denzel Valentine at the beginning of the season. This is a great Boylan moment. There's been a few recently that have been really classic. He made a Field of Dreams reference in a post game conference, saying that if you build the foundation of the team, they will come, meaning wins. And then one of the reporters said, "But they haven't," and he was a little deflated by that. So there's been some great moments, but one of the top ones was in the preseason when asked about Denzel Valentine, one of the only healthy wings on the roster, whether he'd get a spot. He said no, and the guy said, "Well, why would he not play?" And he goes, "Just because I said so." That was his reasoning, and that's really defined the way that this rotation has been. It's been a Jim Boylan, I said so kind of decision year. He's made some really kind of interesting decisions left and right. It hasn't been really clear why he's doing what he's doing. There's been mixed results, and the only thing he's really stuck with has been the one thing that hasn't worked, which has been his schemes. He doesn't seem to really understand what he's doing on offense. He understands what are good shots, but he doesn't understand how to create them, which has been a real struggle for this team. He on defense, the blitzing defenses have just yielded so many open looks, open threes, layups, and it's very funny because you look at the way that they play offense and the way that they play defense allows the exact shots that they're trying to get on offense, which is like the opposite kind of the Spurs, where you look at the Spurs and they're a decent defensive team and they're really good at making other teams take the worst shots, but then on offense they take those shots too. The Bulls are kind of the inverse of that, and it's been sort of fascinating because it's sort of like a mouse chasing their tail watching this team sometimes because they try to get the best shots on the floor, they don't succeed, and then on defense they immediately cede the best shots on the floor. So it's been a little disappointing as a Bulls fan. I'm not sure that there's a reason to fire him just because I'm not a big fan of interim head coaches, of which he was one. So I think in general you might just need to let him ride it out, but I am concerned for the development of some of the guys on this team, and we might be approaching trade Lowry Markkinen territory
I was going to
pretty
ask
soon.
you that. I was going to say, are we back on that bandwagon,
Uh,
trying to get some value before he
it might
commands a
be
max
time.
deal?
If a team's offering multiple first round picks, I'd if I was the Bulls front office, I'd probably bite. But I don't think they're going to because they are on the hot seat as well. So I almost my best case scenario here is that the Bulls clean house, get a new front office and a new coach. That would be kind of the ideal solution. And I think there's talent on this team. You watch guys like Zach LaVine and you imagine them as a third option on offense, and you think, oh my goodness, this guy could be on offense. On offense. I want to be very clear that I'm only talking about offense. Watching Zach LaVine, you sometimes get the sense that he could be a better version of Klay Thompson on offense. He's that good, and he's such a good shooter that from standstill, he can just do a lot with the ball. He's more creative than a guy like Thompson is, who's kind of more of a one dribble move guy. Um, he can really finish around the rim. He's a good free throw shooter, and he's an elite shooter. But on this team, he's just asked to do too much, and it's very tough. So we'll see. There's a lot of season to be played, but the early returns have been pretty mixed. But
You
you know
know
what?
what? I'm gonna give you some credit real quick because that was a little bit more blissful than I was preparing for. Very impressive. Very,
Well,
very
I,
impressive.
I think there is something sort of blissful we can end with, which is we won't be getting to see you guys next week, as Jason mentioned, but because of this, we are double dipping on some marquee matchups, Jason. So we've got 6 marquee matchups for the people.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna just come in hot. We're gonna have a show in 2 weeks. We don't know if it's gonna be on the 17th or 18th yet, but we will have one more show before Christmas. That is a guarantee. So this is going from tomorrow the 4th all the way up through the 16th. We gave it about a 13-day range. So game one, I feel like we have the Lakers in here all the time, but Lakers at Jazz, two teams that we talked about at length earlier in the show. The Lakers at the top of the West, the Jazz struggling a bit. We'll see if Mike Conley has a little bit more oomph in the tank or something left, rather. And that game is tomorrow night, Wednesday. So,
And I put in the show notes just now. I'm not gonna lie to the people here. Just give you a peek behind the curtain. That normally we just read these kind of chronologically. Jason does all of his homework, finds you the best games, and then I get to steal from him. So this week I said let's pick 3 of our favorites from the ones you picked, so that we can kind of wax poetic about the ones we like. My favorite out of this bunch is the Sixers at the Celtics on Thursday, December 12th. The reason I'm picking this one, Jason, is because I think it's a major test for these two teams, and I'm really interested to see because I think there's a chance, A, that they could meet in the first round, but if they don't meet in the first round, outside of the Bucks, I think the biggest competition for the Sixers is the Celtics, particularly because they could have a move to make. So I'm really excited to watch this game. We know that there's some history, some chippiness there. So I'm really excited to watch that one. And it is in the Garden in Boston. So that's going to be fun.
yep, that one on December the 12th. So I'm going to cheat here because Ben told me to pick my three best, and I'm going right for the meat and potatoes. Wednesday, December 11th, Kawhi Leonard's return to the Six to take on the Toronto Raptors, whom in just one season with that team led them to an NBA championship. I expect nothing but cheers. You might have a couple of butthurt Raptors fans booing the guy, but look, he brought your franchise its only title to date. He deserves a standing ovation. It was his right to leave in free agency, and I think that is going to be a heavily scrutinized game, all for the right reasons. The Raptors are doing just fine without Kawhi, so definitely one of the marquee matchups to look forward to over the next couple of weeks.
And speaking of those Raptors, the Houston Rockets travel to Toronto this Thursday, December 5th. And I think that's going to be a great game because the Raptors have been one of the best in the league so far at shutting other teams down. Their defense has been absolutely phenomenal. They play on a string. They just communicate. They know where each other are going. They're great at rotations. And they just have a lot of talent on that end. And no one's been able to stop James Harden. So this will be the kind of uh, unstoppable force meets immovable object. And I am fascinated to see what the Raptors do because they've been really locked in on that end of the floor. And so I'm curious to see if they can do anything to this Rockets team to slow down James Harden.
Yeah, definitely a good one to look out for. So my final pick seems like I'm doing a lot of the games that are next week, but an interesting one is Heat at Mavericks on Saturday, December the 14th. I think that's a good test for Luka Doncic playing against Dragic, Butler, and company. It's kind of an old rivalry if you consider the 2011 NBA Finals. This is a much different makeup of the two teams, but with both of them on the rise in their respective conferences, and the Mavericks are a team we cannot leave off the marquee matchups due to the play of Doncic. I mean, they are putting a what for and why whooping on the New Orleans Pelicans right now as we speak. So they're a team on the rise, and I'm excited to see that game.
Yeah, they are beating them up like they owe the money. Anyways, the Denver Nuggets travel to Philadelphia on the 10th, which is next Tuesday. It took me a second there. And we talked about the Nuggets already. They're a team that's getting slept on. Meanwhile, what this will do, Jason, oh boy. We're going to get to see Nikola Jokic versus Joel Embiid, a battle of two of the best centers in our league. You're going to get to watch two of the better defensive teams in the league. This should be fun. I think it's going to be a really great game. And this could be among the better of the games on this list, in all honesty, just because these are two teams that are both really, really good and both really have their eyes on the postseason. I feel like there's a lot of teams that will be comfortable with, just making the playoffs, maybe getting a first round win. These are two teams that are thinking title, Jason. We have a few of those this year where there's just teams that are like, this is our year. We need to win it. And that sort of desperation, I think, exists for these two teams. They want to win the title. So I'm interested to see those two and see how they play next Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm thinking that if Jokic and Embiid get into it the way that Embiid and Towns did, the NBA could start like a big man fight club where all the best centers in the league go at it, and you just see Jared Allen sitting in the background combing his fro while DeAndre Jordan does all the dirty work. I mean, I'd sign up for that. I would go to an NBA big man fight club. I don't think the teams would be on board, but hey, one can dream.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean, it begs the question, Jason. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you who's definitely not winning Big Man Fight Club. Karl Anthony Towns. I'm curious, though, who will win Big Man Fight Club? Who do you think is the favorite going in?
Joel Embiid. I mean, honestly, DeAndre Jordan, I think if he were a little bit younger, would be on that list. Brook Lopez, no contest. He's not in it. Robin Lopez may fight for the Lopez twins as a whole. You have Jokic, you have Horford. Both seem like pretty nice guys. I would go the top two seeds, Embiid and Cat, the two that started this debate. Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to say Hassan Whiteside is really high on my list. He's got the crazy eyes, too. He's got a little bit of the crazy eyes. He's someone I wouldn't really want to see in a dark alley. I think Steven Adams would be a sneaky good choice. I think Steven Adams could take some guys down. He looks like he's been in a scrap or two. And I don't know. I think like some dark horse guys. I kind of feel like Larry Nance might be a guy who could just knock somebody out. And if we're gonna go real dark horses, Boban was in the John Wick 3 movie, so he has some fighting chops too, Jason. So he's got to be on there as well.
Wow. And I was going to say DeMarcus Cousins, but he's hurt. And Dwight Howard, I mean, I think he's trying to put on that nice guy front. So, I mean, I think it would be fun one day to sit out and draw up like seedings of all the big men and then maybe have the listeners vote on who would win Big Man Fight Club. I think something was just born here on Baseline Jumper.
Yeah, we're going to do a Big Man Fight Club bracket and see who comes out on top.
Well, you know who comes out on top most of the time, Ben?
YOU, Jason.
Oh, man, I was going to give you the props, but all right, sounds good. No, I appreciate you bearing with me. Like I said, unable to do a show next week, but we'll be back before you know it. Ben, is there anything else you want to say to the people before we let them go?
I just hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we can't wait to talk to you in just a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review.
5 stars only.
And don't be like Ben. Get your Christmas shopping done. We'll be back in a couple weeks.
Peace.